Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Sounds like an overstatement, doesn't it? Almost impossible to believe. But if that statement resonated with you, it's because there's something within you that hasn't yet grasped the true power of faith, mindset, and even biblical symbolism concerning prosperity. In the Bible, faith emerges as the starting point for all victories. Jesus stated that if we possess faith the size of a mustard seed, we could move mountains. And Napoleon Hill reinforced this very idea, asserting that faith is the genesis of all wealth. It's intriguing how two seemingly disparate worlds, biblical spirituality and studies on success and prosperity, converge precisely on this principle. Without faith, there is no progress. Without faith, any dream perishes in its infancy. Think about how many times you've given up on something before even trying. How many incredible projects remained confined to paper because you thought, what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if I lose money? This kind of thinking is a silent poison. It's the doubt that paralyzes. It's the insecurity that prevents millions of people from taking the first step towards the life they truly desire. Who hasn't let an opportunity slip away due to fear of exposure, of hearing no, or of not having guarantees of success? Napoleon Hill, when he was still an unknown young man, found himself precisely at this crossroads. He was assigned the mission of interviewing Andrew Carnegie, the wealthiest man in the United States at that time. Carnegie sought someone to unveil the secrets of wealth to the world, but first he conducted a test. He asked if Hill would have the courage to dedicate 20 years of his life to this study, with no guarantee of immediate return. Imagine the gravity of that choice. 20 years of sacrifice, with no promise of financial security, only with the faith that, in the end, it would all be worthwhile. Many would have recoiled, but Hill said yes. This decision to trust in the unseen changed the destiny, not only of his life, but of millions of people who were later impacted by his books. Faith doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means acting in spite of it. How many people work for years in jobs they don't love, trapped in routines that drain their energy simply because they don't believe they are capable of building something better? They settle for little because they lack sufficient faith to believe they deserve more. This isn't just a matter of ambition, but of self-confidence, faith in God, and trust that the world can offer more than daily survival. And here's the point: when you truly believe, your mind starts seeking pathways. Science has already proven this. Psychological research indicates that individuals with high levels of optimism and faith in their goals are more resilient in the face of setbacks and are more likely to discover creative solutions. It's as if the brain is programmed to perceive opportunities that were previously invisible. Faith opens your eyes. But how do you translate this theory into practice? The first step is simple yet powerful. For the next 7 days, every time an idea emerges, don't stifle it with thoughts of failure. Write it down. Transform that idea into a minimal action. If you considered starting a business, take the first step by researching the market. If you thought about improving your financial life, take the first step by opening a spreadsheet and logging your expenses. Faith isn't just believing, it's believing and acting. Great names in history prove this. Walt Disney, for instance, was fired from a newspaper because they said he lacked sufficient creativity. Imagine if he had believed that lie. His faith in his own vision gave rise to one of the world's largest entertainment empires. And how many of us have given up on something because someone discredited our idea, perhaps even close acquaintances who, without malice, planted seeds of doubt in our hearts? Faith is an act of courage. It's looking within yourself and saying, even if no one else believes, I believe. It's looking forward when everything around seems dark and taking the first step without seeing the entire path. What's interesting is that the Bible never promises an absence of difficulties. It shows that faith is the fuel to face the deserts and reach the promised land. And that's precisely what Hill discovered throughout his life. The most successful people aren't those who never experience fear, but those who chose to act in spite of it. So, if doubt has stolen your dreams, if fear has paralyzed you, remember that faith is the foundation of everything, and it doesn't need to be a giant faith. It just needs to be sincere, firm enough to take one small step today. Because it's that small step, repeated countless times, that builds an entire lifetime of achievements. Discipline is one of the most powerful principles when it comes to prosperity. The Bible itself teaches that in all toil there is profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty. It's not enough merely to dream, plan, or speak about what you'd like to achieve. The difference between those who get there and those who stay in the same place is the ability to maintain consistency, even when the initial enthusiasm fades. Napoleon Hill made it clear in his studies that discipline is the bridge connecting the idea to the result. Consider how many projects you've started with enthusiasm, only to abandon them midway. How many diets were left unfinished? How many courses were purchased and never completed? How many businesses were dreamed of but never launched? This is the portrait of most people. They don't fail due to a lack of talent or intelligence, but because they can't sustain the discipline required to see results materialize. And discipline, contrary to what many believe, isn't innate. It's a muscle that strengthens with daily training. History is replete with examples of people who had everything and lost it precisely because they failed to apply this principle. Mike Tyson, for instance, accumulated over $300 million in his boxing career, but a lack of financial discipline led him to bankruptcy. The issue wasn't talent, because he had plenty of that, but rather the absence of consistent habits that would have kept him on the path to prosperity. This is living proof that discipline isn't optional, it's essential. And when we reflect on ourselves, it's easy to see how a lack of discipline permeates daily life. Who hasn't promised to save money and, by the end of the month, found they spent it on small, insignificant things? Who hasn't sworn they would study every day, only to postpone it until tomorrow repeatedly, until the habit simply vanished? This is the reality for millions of people, and it's precisely here that discipline becomes a watershed moment. Scientific studies confirm that disciplined individuals are generally happier and more prosperous. A study published by the Journal of Personality indicated that individuals with greater self-control report higher levels of life satisfaction. This is because discipline isn't just about money or work. It's about having mastery over oneself, and that mastery brings peace, security, and a profound sense of accomplishment. Napoleon Hill learned this practically throughout his life. During the years he worked on the project suggested by Andrew Carnegie, he had to maintain an intense routine of studies, interviews, and writing, often without receiving anything in return. Those were years of silent dedication, during which no one applauded and no one recognized his efforts. It was discipline that kept him steadfast, even when results seemed distant. And it is precisely this example that demonstrates that discipline is more powerful than fleeting motivation. But how can this be applied practically? A simple approach is to choose just one area of your financial life and create a small daily habit. If your struggle is overspending, log all your expenses, even the smallest ones, for 30 days. This habit cultivates awareness and paves the way for deeper changes. If your challenge is investing, set aside a fixed amount, however small, and apply it every month. The amount matters less than the consistency. The secret is that the brain acclimates to repetition, and what seemed impossible at first becomes automatic over time. Discipline might seem challenging initially, but it brings long-term freedom. It's like the athlete who trains daily to achieve victory. Each repetition might seem tiring, but it's the accumulation of them that builds the ultimate glory. And when you look at your financial, professional, or personal life, the same rule applies. Freedom only exists where discipline exists. If you recognize yourself in this struggle against inconsistency, here's a powerful challenge. Choose one small action related to your money, saving a percentage, tracking expenses, or studying a specific topic, and maintain that action every day for 30 consecutive days. It might seem insignificant, but this is the kind of habit that can completely transform how you manage money. Because true wealth doesn't begin with grand achievements, but with small, disciplined actions repeated over time. In the Bible, the story of Joseph in Egypt stands as one of the greatest proofs of the power of vision. He interpreted Pharaoh's dreams and managed to transform 7 years of abundance into a strategy that would sustain an entire people through 7 years of scarcity. This ability to see beyond the present is what separates those who merely survive from those who build a legacy. Napoleon Hill profoundly understood this when he stated that a goal is a dream with a deadline. Vision is the compass that directs energy, effort, and even faith. Without vision, work becomes mere repetition, and life turns into a purposeless cycle. Many people live this way, trapped in routines that seem to go nowhere. They work tirelessly every day, yet feel like they're not making progress toward anything. It's like running on a treadmill. You get tired, you sweat, you exert yourself, but ultimately you stay in the same spot. This is the reality for millions of individuals who, lacking a clear vision, become slaves to immediacy. Both the Bible and Hill agree on a crucial point. When there is no vision, the people perish, and when there is no objective, energy dissipates. One of the most prominent examples of vision in the modern world was Steve Jobs. When he announced his desire to put a computer in every person's pocket, many scoffed, thinking it sheer madness or simply impossible. Yet it was this vision that birthed the iPhone and propelled Apple to become one of the most valuable companies on the planet. Vision builds resilience against the skepticism of others. It acts as an inner strength that keeps you steadfast when everyone else declares it unachievable. And that is precisely why people with vision can inspire multitudes, because they perceive what no one else sees. Psychological studies also indicate that individuals who establish clear goals have a greater likelihood of achieving success. Research published by the Harvard Business Review showed that professionals who document their objectives and set deadlines are significantly more prone to achieving outcomes than those who merely contemplate or discuss them. This occurs because when we give concrete form to a vision, our brain begins to work in service of it, identifying opportunities, filtering information, and forging connections that previously did not exist. Napoleon Hill experienced this firsthand. Upon accepting Andrew Carnegie's challenge, he had to formulate a long-term vision, to interview hundreds of successful men and women, and, from those interviews, compile a method for achieving wealth. Imagine living for years with this vision, without the book yet published, unsure if it would truly be accepted, without any guarantee of immediate financial return. The vision was what kept Hill resolute, even when it seemed as if nothing was happening. It was this clarity that led him to transform years of study into one of the world's most influential works on success. Think and Grow Rich. And when we consider the practical application of this, the question is inescapable. What is your vision? Do you truly know where you're headed, or are you simply operating on autopilot, waiting for life to happen? If your answer is vague, then it's time to put it on paper. Take one dream, just one, and set a deadline for achieving it. It doesn't have to be something colossal. It could be paying off a debt in 1 year, building a financial reserve in 2 years, or starting a business in 6 months. The important thing is to transform this dream into a clearly defined objective. It is at this point that the impossible begins to take shape. Without vision, time is lost to distractions. With vision, every small action gains meaning. That course that seemed merely another obligation now becomes the stepping stone to the next level. That seemingly insignificant saving transforms into a brick in a grand edifice. Vision provides purpose, and purpose is what sustains any journey. The Bible, through the story of Job, demonstrates that even in the face of the greatest losses, perseverance and resilience can transform tragedies into new beginnings. Job lost his family, his possessions, his health, yet he maintained his faith and in the end received double what he had lost. Napoleon Hill viewed life similarly when he stated that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent benefit. This statement reveals a truth often challenging to accept. Moments of pain are not the end, but rather the fertile ground where new opportunities can blossom. Who hasn't experienced a situation where it felt like their entire world was crumbling? An unexpected layoff, the end of a relationship, a debt that causes sleepless nights, or even health issues that turn life upside down. In such times, the initial reaction is to believe there's no way out. But it is precisely then that the opportunity to reinvent oneself emerges. The distinction between those who rise and those who remain fallen lies in the ability to look at adversity and ask, what can I learn here? What strength have I not yet discovered within myself that will only surface now? Napoleon Hill experienced this vividly during the Great Depression, a period marked by widespread unemployment, bankruptcies, and collective despair. Having already established a career as a lecturer, he found himself in dire financial straits, without prospects. One dark night, he seriously contemplated giving up on life itself. Imagine the scene. A man who had studied the secrets of success for decades, now utterly overcome by failure and despair. But it was precisely in that moment of extreme pain that something happened. Hill discovered a new strength within himself, the determination to transform his suffering into a message. He resumed lecturing, began writing again, and from this period of crisis, teachings emerged that changed millions of lives worldwide. It's impossible not to feel a sense of awe, realizing that, had he given up that night, we might never have known his work. Science also confirms that resilience is a crucial factor for well-being. Research in positive psychology indicates that resilient individuals not only overcome crises more quickly, but often emerge stronger from them. They learn to reinterpret events, to view failure not as an end, but as part of the process. This is what the Bible calls perseverance, and what Hill referred to as opportunity in disguise. When we consider real-life examples, it's impossible not to think of Oprah Winfrey. She was born into extreme poverty, endured abuse during childhood, and faced prejudice throughout her journey. Everything suggested her story would be one of failure, but she chose to rise. She used every pain as fuel, and her resilience transformed her into one of the most influential and wealthiest women in the world. What could have been her undoing became the bedrock of her strength. But how can we apply this practically? A powerful exercise, when facing any difficulty, is to pause and write, what is the hidden lesson here? This simple question shifts the focus from pain to the potential for growth. When you train your mind to seek meaning, even in the most challenging situations, the pain doesn't vanish, but it transforms into learning. And this accumulated learning over time builds an inner strength that no crisis can shatter. Resilience doesn't mean passively accepting problems, but rather facing them with courage, knowing that something exists beyond that momentary pain. It's an act of active hope, of rising as many times as necessary. Those who learn to be resilient discover that even the worst days can be seeds for better futures. It is this capacity not to surrender that differentiates those who stay down from those who, even in darkness, find a path to light. The Bible teaches us that the mouth speaks what the heart is full of, and Napoleon Hill emphasized that thoughts shape reality. There is a transformative power in how we use our words and thoughts. They are like seeds we plant every day. They can blossom into prosperity or turn into weeds that suffocate our dreams. What you constantly think and say is not merely a reflection of your life, but also a factor that forges the path you walk. How many times have you said phrases to yourself like, "I'll never get out of debt," "money isn't for me," or "rich people only get rich by exploiting others"? These thoughts might seem harmless, but they function as self-fulfilling prophecies. If you believe you're not capable, you will act in accordance with that belief. You will avoid opportunities, sabotage yourself, and accept less than you deserve. It's as if your mind closes doors before you even attempt to open them. Napoleon Hill learned this when he realized that the most successful people he interviewed had something in common. They protected their thoughts and refused to entertain beliefs of failure. Andrew Carnegie, for instance, stated that a positive mind was more valuable than gold, because gold can be lost. But an idea sustained by the right beliefs can generate infinite wealth. Hill lived this truth when, in moments of financial hardship, he repeated affirmations of courage to himself, even when everything around him screamed the opposite. It was this mental exercise that prevented him from giving up. A powerful example is that of Jim Carrey. Before his fame, he wrote himself a check for $10 million, post-dated for several years in the future, and kept it in his wallet. Years later, when he starred in successful films, that exact amount became his average pay. It was a symbolic way of keeping alive the belief that it would be possible, even when there was no sign that it could become a reality. But there are also examples of how negative words can destroy destinies. Amy Winehouse, a singer of extraordinary talent, spoke publicly about her self-destruction, her disbelief in herself, and even repeatedly sang that she didn't want help. Tragically, these words became a reflection of her short and tragic life. This illustrates how what we speak and think can guide us upward or downward. Applying this principle in daily life can be simpler than it appears. Replace self-sabotaging phrases with affirmations of strength. Instead of saying, "I can never save money," say, "I am learning to manage my finances better." Instead of asserting, "I'm unlucky at work," repeat, "I am building opportunities to grow." This shift in language might seem minor, but it creates a new mental reality, and a new mental reality fosters new behaviors. Here's a practical challenge. For the next 21 days, pay attention to the phrases you repeat to yourself about money, work, and success. Every time you catch a negative thought, write it down and reframe it positively. This exercise will train your mind to shift the pattern and plant seeds of prosperity. Ultimately, the words that come out of your mouth and the thoughts you cultivate are not just reflections of the life you have, but tools to build the life you desire. If the Bible shows that faith comes from hearing, and Napoleon Hill states that thoughts determine your destiny, then it's up to you to choose what you'll sow every day: fear or prosperity, failure or abundance. Because the fruit, sooner or later, always appears. All paths to prosperity, whether through faith, discipline, vision, resilience, or the way we think and speak, begin within us. It's not the external circumstances that determine how much you can grow, but rather what you believe, uphold, and practice daily. And that's a choice only you can make. The next video is already appearing on your screen. In it, you'll climb another step on this ladder of wisdom, advancing to become 1% better than you are now. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I'll see you in the next video.